So, I know that this might be a little bit difficult to believe, but there was once a time when Donald Trump claimed that it would be Mexico who'd pay for the wall that he wants to build on our southern border. Now, if you don't remember, let me refresh your memory.
I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me. And I'll build them very inexpensively. I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words.
Those were the good old days, weren't they? So, of course, now that he's president, that is a position that's untenable. So if he really wants the border wall, which I'm assuming he obviously does, right? Because this was his number one campaign promise. So you've got to try to deliver if you want to be reelected in 2020. So what he's trying to do now is find someone to fund the border wall, and that someone is you. He wants your tax dollars to fund it, since obviously Mexico isn't going to pay for this. Now, what's interesting is that he's proving how far he'll go to guarantee funding for his border wall. So he tweeted, "I would be willing to shut down government if the Democrats do not give us the votes for border security, which includes the wall, must get rid of lottery, catch and release, etc., and finally go to system of immigration based on merit. We need great people coming into our country." Now, knowing that shutting down the government right before the midterm elections in November would basically be political suicide for Republicans, this was essentially their response.
What the hell did you just say?
So clearly, they're not in favor of shutting down the government to fund Donald Trump's border wall, and they spoke out against the idea of shutting down the government pretty vocally. But since they were so vocal and communicating to President Donald Trump that this isn't something that he wants to be pushing for, because certainly it wouldn't help the cause of helping Republicans maintain control of Congress, well, clearly Donald Trump decided to back off of this plan to shut down the government. I'm just kidding.
If we don't get border security, after many, many years of talk within the United States, I would have no problem doing a shutdown. It's time we had proper border security. We're the laughing stock of the world. We have the worst immigration laws anywhere in the world.
Of course he doubled down. This is what I really like. Donald Trump is someone who puts his foot in his mouth at least twice a day on certain issues. He always speaks, he talks and talks and talks and talks, and really, it would behoove him to just stop talking and listen once in a while. But he can't help himself. He's got to continue to say just what he feels instinctively. Now, my question to Donald Trump, since he's now seeking out funding for his border wall, is how are we going to pay for it? I mean, we have a deficit that is exploding because of Donald Trump's tax cuts for the rich. The country is in debt. And you think we can afford this border wall? How are we going to pay for this, Donald Trump? I mean, they ask us this question whenever we talk about policies like Medicare for All. So prove to us that you think it's a good idea that we spend a dime on something that will basically be symbolic and make you and your supporters feel better, won't do anything to solve the immigration crisis this country faces, but it would make you feel better. So explain to us why us spending another penny on this while people are dying and going bankrupt due to a lack of health insurance, while people are working longer hours for lower wages. Explain to me why you think that's more important than the well-being of American citizens. Explain that to us, Donald Trump. He can't. And my question is, how do his supporters not feel disenchanted with him? Because clearly he said Mexico would pay for the wall. He explicitly said this. And now he's not even trying to maintain this position because he can't. So how do you not view him as a liar if you're a Donald Trump supporter? Well, it's very clear that Donald Trump is an individual who has this cult of personality where people don't necessarily care about the promises, but they're willing to believe anything he has to say because they view him as a benevolent politician who is always looking out for their best interests. So, sometimes he may lie to them. Sometimes he may do a 180 on things that they previously cared about. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is all-knowing and all good, and that's all that they care about. There's a portion of his base that will never leave him. So I don't feel as though I'm one of the individuals that has this visceral knee-jerk reaction to it. I just think it's unnecessary. It's stupid. I mean, a large portion, 40% of individuals who are here illegally, they didn't cross the border. They had a visa and it expired and they remained in the country. So, I mean, if you really want to solve the immigration crisis, Republicans, they're in power now. They can pass comprehensive immigration reform. They can do what they want. But they're not doing that. They want the border wall because it's symbolic. That's all that this is about. But, unfortunately, that symbolism is important to the Republican Party base, and more specifically to Donald Trump's diehard supporters, because Donald Trump represents the wall. When you ask the supporters, a lot of times they'd say during the campaign that the wall was the number one reason why they were excited about Donald Trump. So, it's on him to deliver that wall to his base. And now it doesn't even matter that Mexico isn't going to pay for it. He's trying to do, this mental gymnastics and say, well, we have a trade deficit with Mexico, so if we fudge the numbers here and there, then eventually they'll make it up for it. They're not going to pay for the wall, and it doesn't work that way, Donald Trump. It doesn't work that way. So, whatever he does, he's got to make sure he gets the wall, because if he doesn't, then his entire presidency will have been a failure, because that's the one thing that his supporters sent him to the White House to do. And now he's struggling to deliver on it, which is why he's advocating for it so vocally and even willing to shut down the government and state that he's willing to shut down the government if he doesn't get this wall, because he knows if he doesn't at least start making some progress towards the wall soon, 2020 isn't going to go too well for him. And I'm not going to be one of those individuals that says he has no chance in 2020. I do think that it's possible Donald Trump could be reelected, but certainly going into 2020, he'd be a lot more powerful if he gets that wall built. So that's why he wants to shut down the government, and he doesn't give a damn if it hurts congressional Republicans in the process, but good. Keep talking, Donald Trump, because you're only making our jobs easier.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.